somebody. Okay. Right, the protocol for remote hearings. Only speak when invited to by the chair. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand and direct all communication via the chair. Please ensure that your mics are muted when you are not speaking. When speaking, please be succinct and do not exceed the allocated timeframes. If referring to any written submissions, please refer to the specific page number in the agenda pack. Any new evidence can only be submitted at the discretion of the chair and the agreement of all parties. If you are having technical difficulties, please use the chat function to alert the meeting or dial in using the details in the invitation. Please do not use the chat function for putting formal questions to the subcommittee. Any persistent disruptive behaviour will result in removal from the meeting. Once the application has been considered, any remaining parties will be asked to log out of the hearing. Please do so promptly so that councillors will have the opportunity to deliberate and make a decision. Each party will be notified of the decision within 5 working days. However, if you contact the licensing services tomorrow, you will be given a skeleton decision. May I invite members to elect a chair? Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to elect the chair, Councillor Gilbert Smith. Thank you.
I second that.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, colleagues, for that one. And welcome everyone today to this licensing subcommittee meeting Tuesday the 2nd of May 2023 at 2 p.m. So welcome everyone. We'll just go around the virtual room very quickly just to introduce ourselves. We've got 2 items on the agenda today. We've got Bleak Productions and we also got the Cafe Coffee. Now the Cafe Coffee people could come back, leave and come back if you want to do that. Maybe come back in half an hour. Would you be up for that, the people on the call? So those for Cafe Coffee, you could just basically, turn your cameras off or whatever, and then come back in half an hour, if that's okay. If you'd like to turn your cameras off, that would help me kind of identify those that are relevant to each particular agenda item. And then I can, Amanda.
Yeah, do you think 30 minutes is enough time to conclude that item?
Possibly not, but I'm just
Can we
saying
say
maybe
5 minutes to be on the safe side? We can always call them back earlier if we finish before.
Yeah, okay, let's do that then. If that's okay with everyone. Yeah, maybe 45 minutes. South Mildmay, I see you've raised your hand.
Hi, is it possible then to do the Cafe Coffee first?
No, we'll carry on with the agenda structure as outlined in the report, I'm afraid. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Sorry about that. Okay, so all those that are here for Cafe Coffee, if you could just turn your cameras off, that would be good. And then I can get on with the introductions for Bleak Productions. Excellent. Okay. I have a limited number of people I can see on my screen, so people please help me. I know there's 10 other people on this call. I can't see their cameras, so you just need to help me. Some people just identify those that I cannot see. So let's start with Amanda.
Good afternoon. My name's Amanda North, Legal Services, and I'm here supporting members this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm Councillor Gilbert Smith. I'm Chair of Licensing and also a councillor in Stoke Newington Ward. Can we have Suba next, please?
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Subhashri. I'm a Principal Licensing Officer, and I will be presenting the report for this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sizer.
Councillor Sizer, Stoke Newington, and Hoxton East and Shoreditch. Sorry, I got excited with hearing Stoke Newington called. I'm not a councillor for Stoke Newington. Hoxton East and Shoreditch.
Thank you. And Councillor Susarunga.
Hello, I'm Councillor Susarunga. I'm a member of the Licensing Committee and a councillor for Hackney Central.
Fantastic. David.
Hello, I'm David Tear. I'm team leader, licensing and technical support.
Thank you very much. And then I've got, it says national compliance on my screen.
Yeah, that's me. So mine is Ryan Skidmore. Yeah, I'm from National Compliance Training. So the agent for the applicant.
Okay, what's your name, please?
It's Ryan Skidmore.
Ryan. Okay, thank you, Ryan.
Yeah.
And can you just outline what you do again? Compliance, yeah?
So yeah, we're the client for the applicant, Sarah Withers.
Okay, thank you. And Sarah, do you want to come and introduce yourself, please?
Hi, I'm Sarah Withers. I'm a co-owner with Tristan Norwell of Bleak Post Production and the applicants for the premises license.
Okay. And then I've got someone here that's camera off. Are there any other people for this that I cannot see? If there are, please just chip in, come in and introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm coming to object. I'm not clear. Are we supposed to be all telling you who we are? I'm
Yes.
a resident. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean,
so I'm a resident.
you can go as you know, like a C1 or C2. It depends if you want to be called your real name or whatever, but it's all on the screen anyway. So are you happy? Are you happy being called by
my name? Yes.
Cool. So okay, Deborah, thank you for that. Are there any other persons for Bleat at all on the call that need to introduce themselves? Okay, excellent. So I think we've done the introductions, so we'll just we'll get on with the rest of the schedule. So we have various steps in this, and you'll see the agenda is in the pack, either online or physically. You can see it there. So we have step one, which is the introduction or the appointment of chair and the introductions, which we've done. Step two is where the principal licensing officer, we have someone else like to join the call. Oh, by the way, Mario on the call, he is our IT person. So thank you, Mario. So step two, the licensing officer will outline the report. Step three, the applicant, in fact, we missed part of the agenda, haven't we? Apologies for absence. None received today. Agenda item 3, declarations of interest. Do members have any declarations of interest?
No declarations of interest.
None from me.
Thank you. Agenda item 4, minutes of the previous meeting. There are no minutes for consideration today. And agenda item 5 is I will outline the hearing procedure, which I sort of jumped to automatically in my haste. So we'll just go through the hearing procedure. So step 1, introduction, appointment of chair, which we've done. Step 2, the principal licensing officer will outline the report. Step 3, the applicant will present their case over 5 minutes. And then step 4, we will have responsible authorities come in. In this case, we've environmental health, the enforcement team have agreed conditions at 8.1 in the pack. The police have withdrawn their conditions. They've agreed conditions at 8.1 in the pack. The licensing authority is here to represent themselves. And then we have other persons, of which there were 10. And I think we've got Deborah on the call. So responsible authorities, step 4, 5 minutes. Other persons, step 5, 5 minutes. And then step 6, we move to a discussion phase over 15 minutes. Step 7, closing remarks. Step 8, final clarification. And then step 9 will be, we ask people to leave, and then we'll kind of consider the case when the day is over. You will hear by telephone tomorrow or within 5 working days a skeleton decision by post or email. Yeah, so let's fire on with the step 2. I would like to invite the principal licensing officer, please, to outline the report. Thank you, Suba.
Thank you, Chair. So the first item we are going to consider this afternoon is for a premises license under the Section 17 of the Licensing Act 2003 for the Bleak Post Production Limited, Unit 123, Sheep Lane. The applicant is seeking for the permission for regulated entertainment and late night refreshment from 2300 to 2 a.m. Monday to Sunday, and to authorize the supply of alcohol for the consumption on the premises from 11 to 2 a.m. Monday to Sunday, as stated within the report. Representation still remains from licensing and other persons, and I have nothing else to add. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Suba. I noted that Amy came on the call. Amy, are you here for Bleat or are you here for Kappa Coffee? I don't know if you can hear me.
For Cafe Coffee.
Oh, okay, so if you come back in 40 minutes or whatever, that'll be good, yeah?
Okay, great, thanks.
Cool. Excellent. Okay, so step 3 is the applicant. Can I invite the applicant, please? Sarah, it might be you speaking or whoever else to come and to represent your case in support of your application, please. You've got 5 minutes. Thank you.
So if I was going, am I all right to do that for Sarah to start with?
Okay,
agent.
great. That's Ryan, yeah?
So we Bleat Post Production is the post production facility for TV, film, and sound. It has 2 large theatre rooms and 4 smaller editing suites. And the application's been originally made for the supply of alcohol, late night refreshment provision, and regulated entertainment on the premises between the hours 23 to 02, so Monday to Friday. We're speaking with Miss Withers herself. She would be happy to move back to 11 p.m. if that helps satisfy conditions as well.
Yep. I mean that's very very very.
So a number of the representations referred to the potential issues that could be caused by the late hours requested on the original application. We'd like to clarify that throughout there's been proactive to try and get this application through. It's been given reasons on what there's going to be no issues with that sort of thing. The intention, as stated within the application, is to be a private bar for the use of clients already at the premises. That it's not going to be just that everyone turns up just like a normal bar. Any events they're relatively rare occurrences, and these events, when they're going to occur, they will be for things like business related more than anything, so talks or film screenings. The events will also be invitation only and limited to 25 to 30 people. So day to day, it's very unlikely there's going to be events. It's more people will be leaving by about 6 p.m, just like the generic hours. Just that option. But if there is any events where there's a new screening, for example, it would just be a good opportunity to extend, and it gives the any clients that chance to basically just have a drink with it to enhance their experience, really. A few of the representations related to the noise pollution, and we'd like to point out any concerns raised by environmental health regards to that have been discussed with them directly, and hence has led to them withdrawing their representation. Notably, they have got shutters on the premises outside the windows to reduce that noise spillage, and the facility has been totally soundproofed at great expense. With rooms, they're floating, so within the area, within that building area, to prevent any sort of flow of the noise out to outside or the flats above. And overall, we could feel like Bleat Post Production Ltd adds value to the local community, and the ability for customers to purchase alcohol with their spending time at the venue. It adds to the experience, and we feel that with the conditions suggested, alongside any other further conditions agreed with the police and the environmental health, then all licence objectives should be adhered to. Sarah, if you have anything to add.
No, I think that was it. I mean, really, we are the bar primarily is for our clients' use, and otherwise industry type events, which would be, as Ryan said, invitation only. We don't want to run a bar. We are running a post-production facility, and so we were advised to apply for a license over many days for many hours, and are happy not to be running at that length.
And I might just add that on a typical, the reason we've kind of got the license is our typical clients will normally be about, I don't know, between 10 and 12 people in the entire building. And they might just occasionally want a bottle of wine between them on the odd event that they stay late. So it's not even that regular that we have people working late, but we'd like to be able to sell them alcohol if if they are staying late because they, some of them quite like to buy a bottle of champagne, they've celebrated making their film or whatever, but it's generally pretty small kind of gatherings that happen, and it's just it's almost like an after work drink for these clients. So it's not like we're kind of running a bar in the traditional sense that we're trying to appeal to people on the street or anything like that. It's anyone that comes into our building also has to sign an NDA, because it's a high level of security here, and the productions are very discreet and usually not on general release because they haven't been made. So there's a high level of security involved, and we take that very seriously. So I think I think our application might have looked bigger than it kind of is. Hopefully that's what the eventuality is.
Okay, thank you for that. You've had your 5 minutes.
Thank
you very much indeed. So can I just call members of the subcommittee, if you have any points of clarity at this point? Councillor Sizer.
Yeah, thank you. That was really, really helpful. I just want to clarify about the soundproofing. So thank you very much that that's been done. Can you talk a little bit more about how robust that is, how you're not going to have noise leakage to neighbours, which is obviously our primary concern, really?
Yes, we've spent about,
Lots
of money building completely soundproof cinemas and sound mixing rooms. And the best example I can give is that they're fully floated structures, and basically side by side you can't hear each other working. So if you stand outside one of the rooms in which something's being mixed, you literally can't hear the music or any noise from the film standing on the outside of it. So and according to the architect, it's the quietest room he's ever built, and he's built Abbey Road Studios, Molyneux, whatever. He's a very highly respected architect. So these are the quietest rooms he's ever built, just as a fact.
And also we have Ingeus, an office company above us, and we've never had a complaint for them. So they're between us and the residents, and they've never talked of any sound leakage.
Yeah, you can't hear anything.
Oh, have we got? And then we've got independent verification of that. We've got reports and.
Not from us. I've never been asked for one.
Okay. I don't know if that would come up, but I don't know that that may come up with the residents. I don't know, but that's really useful to hear so far.
Councillor Sidarunga, any points of clarification?
No points of clarification at the time. Thank you.
I would just like to clarify from the map here. You can see in red. It was very hard to decipher because I couldn't really read much of it. But this area here, that area there, is where you want to have this bit here licensed. Yeah. So this is the sort of bar.
Yeah.
Area. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. And there was mention of a kind of an eating area there as well. Is that included in this space too, or is that somewhere else?
No, that's the same area.
Okay, so this is your this is the area where we're really a bit there's sort of cinema areas here and here. Yeah, brilliant. I used to work in sound, so I'm very familiar with this sort of this field. Okay, so I think we've hit on the point of clarity. I mean, I do have a lot of other questions, but we can go through those in the discussion phase. So at this point, to invite David Chewett to come in from licensing with your representation. David, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'll keep this brief. So my representation is in the agenda Appendix B. And within that, I just raised concerns about the location of the premises, close proximity to residential premises that appear to be directly above. So I was therefore concerned that the operating hours proposed and even the core hours could still lead to the prevention of public nuisance licensing objective being undermined. This was concerns about a public bar, but obviously the applicant has suggested that this isn't the case, that the bar will only be for clients or invite only and limited in scope and frequency of the events. But there are still some concerns which no doubt residents will speak to when they make their representations. I'll leave it there for now, Chair, so we can get to hear from residents and then of course get to the discussion phase. Thank you.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, I think we'll move swiftly on then to Deborah. Deborah, are you kind of representing yourself? Are you representing all the other residents? Because I have a number of other persons here, of which you are the only person actually here, I believe. Is that correct, Suba? Can you help me with this? I've got a list of quite a number of other persons. I think there were 10 in total.
I can look. I can see C1 in the call, Chair.
Okay, C1. We're trying not to mention people's full names because just for safety reasons. But C1, can you identify them, Suba, without saying their name?
I can see their name displaying as Victoria.
Okay. Is Victoria on the call? No. Okay, Deborah, do you want to come in with your submission then, please?
Thank you. Yes, I live directly opposite Bleak Productions. There's 4 Victorian houses whose bedrooms all back on at a side to where they are. So I'm speaking for me, and I'm also worrying about all the people in the houses next to me and the people in the flats above. This is a residential area. I am a recently retired GP, and I can quote loads of evidence for you on the public health effects of noise. Major effect on health, on people's hearts, their blood pressure, increase in strokes and stress, and all the knock-on effects of that. It especially affects children and vulnerable adults. I cannot see how people celebrating the release of a film and drinking a bottle of champagne are going to creep out of that building late at night quietly. It's not going to happen. We all know wherever there's alcohol and parties and celebration, people are noisy. It's natural. That's not a problem with that. But that is what happens. And to say you're only going to use it occasionally and by invite, that gives me no reassurance whatsoever, because what's occasionally this week? Occasionally could be once every week. It could be, you know, in 3 months' time, it could be every night. And I just think to give a licensing approval to a place that is built in an area that is just all residents is unacceptable. It's going to have a knock-on effect on all of us. And I have lived with noise for years, and it's just extraordinary that this place should be picked to do it. And I cannot see how they can reassure us that we're not going to be woken most nights at 11 at night when people leave the premises having had a drink.
Is that it, Deborah? That was very quick. I mean, you've got another 3 minutes if you want it.
Oh, have I? Okay. I was trying to make sure.
I mean, you know, you can take it if you want. It's there for you to have if you want it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I suppose the other things is that, you know, people will come out they'll come out and stand outside the building, and people who smoke will want to light up naturally. That smoke's going to go straight up into the flats above. And well, as I've said from the beginning, they will be chatting, even if they haven't had a lot to drink. They're going to stand outside and chat about what's gone on, and it is very, very has a huge effect on your sleep. And you know, even 11 o'clock at night. If I know that they have said they will withdraw it to 11 o'clock at night, but night after night, children not being able to sleep, and even adults who've got busy day jobs and need to get, you know, 11 o'clock becomes 11:30 midnight. I think you probably got my point. Actually, I'm just saying the same thing over and over again, but it's that the effects of the noise on people's health, and I don't think it's fair in a residential area.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that, Deborah. Suba, did we clarify if V was on the call?
Yes, Chair. Maybe it looks like they don't want to speak.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so let's move into the discussion phase then. Can I invite members, if you want? I mean, I've got a load of questions here, but to come in with your questions and queries, please. Thank you. Councillor Sizer.
Thank you to everyone that's spoken, and Deborah, I really appreciate your comments just now, and especially from a public health perspective. I think that feeds into some of my concerns for this as well. It's less for me personally, and I can only speak for me personally, but it's less about the venue itself, which I think sounds really interesting and very creative and has huge potential, but it's how do we match that with the concerns of the residents locally? How do we really ensure that with the best will in the world that we're not getting people coming out noisily at that time and waking people up? And it's not even about doubting what you would like for this, but how do we safeguard it so that this isn't a residence against the venue? I mean, I noted that you have a property, is it in King's Cross, but it's in quite a different type of area. So I can get very much and would be really excited to go and visit something like that. You know, it sounds really interesting. It's not the venue as such, it's the how we're going to make sure that this doesn't negatively impact residents. That's the main concern for me.
Sure. Am I allowed to reply?
Yes. Yeah. No. Go. Please do.
We actually also own some music recording studios on London Lane, which are also similarly very discreet and completely soundproofed and pretty much run 24/7. But no one has, and we've had those for about 8 years, and we've never ever even, people don't even know we have a studio there. It's very discreet. We don't sing and dance about what we do because it's well, we also live above our studios, and we absolutely empathize with the concerns about you know, noise and it's distressing hearing people late at night. We hear people leaving the pubs down on Pub in the Park, so we know the kind of stress that perhaps is being mentioned by the neighbors here. But just to counter that, really, Bleat post-production is it's just tiny. It's it's sort of I don't know, we really are talking about 10 to 15 people at the most, and it is very infrequent that it happens. I can understand the resident wanting us to somehow reassure. We have been operating for nearly a year, and we've not had any incidents of people going crazy and disturbing anyone on the streets if they've finished late at work. And obviously, well, I guess we haven't had a license, so we haven't served them any alcohol. But at any rate, people don't sort of leave us in a sort of high state of group of, you know, 30, 50, 100 people or anything like that. It's and so also the sound of passing sirens at night in this area is probably far louder than anything that we create. You can't hear the sirens inside our facility because it's completely soundproof. So we ought not to be projecting any noise if people were having a glass of wine at work.
That's really positive, but sorry, I'll just follow up and say that that's almost happened by default, that nothing has happened so far and that there's been a track. What I'd be interested in hearing is how you're going to prevent it going forward. So
Right.
What measures can you put in place? You know, signage, for example, to say leave quietly, obviously stating the obvious, but what can you do proactively to give reassurance to concerned residents?
Well, we'd happily take advice on it, and any recommendations we'd obviously adhere to. We're not in the business of being nuisance neighbours to anyone. I mean, this building is about 35,000 square foot of commercial space, as well as the 30,000 square foot of residential space. So it is, the council has designated a commercial area. But despite that, we would want to be as discreet as we possibly can, as for all the reasons I've mentioned. We certainly don't want to be outstanding like a restaurant or a delivery service or some kind of dark kitchen or anything like that. You know, we're much more discreet than any of those things that are going on next door to us.
Yeah, thank you for that. Are you happy, Councillor Sizer, with those answers? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you that you're willing to listen to any thoughts that we might have as well. But I'll hand over to fellow councillors now.
Yeah, so Councillor Suzarunga, you've got some questions you'd like to ask.
Thank you, Chair. It's just really to get a little bit more detail. And again, thank you for the explanation and the clarity in respect of what will happen in the building. That was really helpful. If you could maybe give a little bit more detail in respect of the frontage of the building, disposable bottles, glass bottles, disposing of waste at the frontage of the building, how that could be mitigated. If it is a noise issue, any kind of lighting at the frontage of the building that may be disturbing sleep, as we've mentioned, the importance of sleep, and maybe a little bit more detail about or some indication of time schedules in respect of those events that you mentioned, which might be taking place. You were saying occasionally, but there must be some indication, and that could be related to the work schedules that you have. So a little bit more follow-on detail would be really helpful. Thank you.
Well, in terms of the rubbish, we have a designated bin store which we share with the other restaurant, well, the Stronghold, Yeast Bakery and Cecilia Restaurant, who we're all in the same building, and we have collections twice a week for glass recycling, landfill, coffee and food. And that I've sent pictures. I think, I don't know if you've all seen them, but the bin store's kept, pretty immaculately for a bin store.
It's
I
just
think
during the day it's collected. Isn't it?
Yeah, and it is only during the day, and so there won't be bottles going into a big bottle bin. There won't be glass breaking at night. We
don't allow our guests outside to drink outside the space. That's for sure. We do have a door to the street behind a hedge, but that's we don't allow our clients to access that for security reasons. So they don't stand outside drinking.
In terms of
wouldn't.
signage, there's the main entrance to the building, which is for the commercial building, and that has a low-level light on at night. There's nothing bleating or blaring going on at night. We are having a sign put up this week, but it can be turned off. I mean, I don't even think it's that bright. And what was your other question?
The events,
Yeah.
in respect of your work schedules and who is doing what in the building, is there some kind of indication that you might know when there would be events based on how the work is going in the different units, in the different production units, that you might be able to give some, not necessarily exactly pinpoint, but some indication of when there might be an event?
Right. Well, I mean, we could say, I mean, I imagine,
so far I think we've had maybe one every 6 weeks,
not even that.
or every couple of months.
Yeah. I mean, it really isn't a frequent thing because, that would be a separate business were we to run a bar every night, and we're just not, that is not what we want to do. And as Tris said earlier, in terms of security, we can't manage it. We can't, and don't want to. In terms of events, I mean, the industry events, so far we haven't had one. We've had a couple of applications, and they've been mainly from colleges for kind of student work. I mean, because we're relatively new, we haven't got this. We're not down that road yet, but we could limit them if that's what the residents wanted. I mean, I think how we think is that clients come and go, but the residents tend to be there for a while, and we really do want to maintain good relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. That was helpful. Thank you.
Councillor Sizer, I can see you've just come in, but Ryan from National Compliance, he would like to come in first. Look, Ryan, by the way, we've had 12 and a half minutes on this. Okay, Ryan? Can't hear you. On mute.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I spoke to Sarah, it was only brief, about there was some regarding the smoking, and there's some signs as well, I believe, about that. Is that right?
Yeah.
So they're not going to be just smoking directly outside of the premises, from what we spoke about.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. Councillor Sizer.
I'm happy to defer to Deborah. I think she's got her hand up as well. Or do you want me to?
Okay, Deborah, do you want to come in?
Yes, just that I don't think any of my concerns have been addressed. People who are drinking get rowdy. We all do. That's what alcohol does to us. That's why we like it. And once you've left the premises, you can do what you like. You can't put up a sign saying people don't smoke and talk loudly in the street, go home, because when they're in the street, they can do exactly what they like. And I think to compare that noise to the noise of sirens is completely disingenuous and very unfair, and it insults our intelligence. And we all live in London, and I've lived in this house for 40 years, and I have lived through a fair amount of noise, and I know what happens when you have alcohol being served late at night. And I, like everybody else, I certainly don't want to stop your business. I don't want you not to have your film stuff going on. I have no problem with that whatsoever, and I would support it. But I do have very serious worries about people coming out of those premises at 11 o'clock at night with no limit on how often they do it and waking everybody up.
Yep. Okay. I suppose we know what the issues really are here. Sorry, Councillor Sizer, you want to come in? Sorry.
No, it was just very briefly to check what has been the resident engagement previously and what can it be going forward, because that's the heart of what we're talking about, is engagement with the residents. So has there been reaching out? Have there been meetings, discussions? What can we put in place to help this?
We did, when we first heard back from some residents, Tris was in touch with them and we invited them down. I don't believe anyone did come. I mean, you know, I'm absolutely happy to engage. I don't want anyone to be stressed by what we're doing. We could, I don't know what we could do. I mean, we could limit the events. We could lower to 10.
Yep. I can see that you're yep. Sarah, I can see that you're willing to kind of, compromise a lot of this stuff. I think we need to cut to the chase a little bit. We've had 15 and a half minutes on here, and we're trying to keep the times tight. So it's a fairly broad application. Another one of our concerns would be to give you a license, and then if you move on, then that license gets sort of passed on to somebody else. So we have to protect the future. So that's one of the things we have to do. Would you be willing to reduce live music on there? Is obviously another concern, even with the soundproofing indoors. When people hear live music, they think drum kits, that kind of thing. So obviously that's going to give them quite a bit of stress. If we can maybe take live music away, because I know that live music is probably not a large part of what you want to do.
No.
So take that out. Obviously the films is fine. Recorded music must be part of the business. Late night refreshment. There was one thing in your submission, Ryan. This is to you with all the fire rates and stuff you talked about, and the kind of flame retardants around curtains and hangings and decorations and stuff. It did ring a few alarm bells with the amount of kind of fire regulations going on, but I think it's good to be on top of that. But that's not my point. There was an issue here about control of smells, which leads me to think, how much cooking are you going to be doing in there?
None.
Okay, so none. So that's needs to go as well. So in terms, Deborah, in terms of smells, they're not going to be doing much cooking. The live music's now gone. Smokers, is there a designated spot for smokers anywhere inside? I mean, obviously you can't smoke, but what I mean is within your complex, are there any outdoor areas within?
No. So what I think, if there are people smoking, which inevitably there are, to go across to the canal, on the canal side of Andrew Road.
Yeah, can't condition that, but you could recommend to your clients, I'm sure they'd be willing to listen, that would be the best place to do it.
Yeah.
That works quite well. That was actually imposed by the building landlord anyway, who I think are called H. Yep. And they designated that it goes way down to the canal. We've always implemented that.
Yeah, I mean, I think personally, it's the outdoor. It's when where residents would have major concerns. I suppose another question for Deborah. Maybe you wouldn't know this, because I know that Crystal Court is nearby, isn't it? And then you've got other properties above. Have you ever had any complaints from anyone above? I know there's an office in between, but in terms of residential above there, no complaints.
No. I mean,
Uh,
complaints against the license application, which is understandable.
Yeah. What else do I want to raise? The placing of bottles into receptacles, basically. I'm just wondering if you would accept a condition in regards to when you deal with bottles and putting them into receptacles. We don't want them to be put in late at night.
Sure.
So we might formulate a condition, say that you're only allowed to do that between certain times, which are kind of sociable times, in the daytime. I'm just looking through my notes. We're going through smokers. Capacity, you've mentioned 25 to 30. So my next question is, on the events, that's the sort of the public-facing element of your business. Is that correct? When you have these events, or is that just clients?
Just
Because
clients,
there's a
or by invitation only.
Yeah.
It's not. It'll be industry related stuff. We never advertise to the public.
right. So as far as the public is concerned, there's no issue there in terms of sort of inviting members of the public to coming in.
Yeah.
My other reflection on this is, sorry to harp on about this, but is if you went to core hours, that would be more acceptable for members. Members, can you just nod if you agree with that, just so I know that that would be acceptable? Core hours, if you don't know, are basically, you said you go to 11, so that's good. 10:30 on a Sunday would be good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Deborah, core hours are actually more than what they're going to do. They said they're going to do 11 every night, whereas actually core hours on a Friday and Saturday could go to 12. So they're actually coming in under core hours, which is what the licensing authority recommend.
But they've just offered to put it down to 10, which I think would be much more acceptable, because then people will be gone by 11, and that's, I think.
I didn't hear that. Sorry.
Sarah offered to put it down to 10 p.m.
Oh, well, that's even better, Sarah. I mean, that really does give members a lot more sort of reassurance, and it protects the venue for the future. Live music struck out back to 10, which is good all round. And that would be from Monday to Sunday. And then just look, I know the kind of area that you work in. It's very creative field, and you'll have clients. I presume some of the clients, would they be the clients who are kind of commissioning the sort of the stuff kind of thing, rather than the creatives, if you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean,
it's a mixture.
Yeah, I mean, the odd thing about film compared to music world is that the film people tend to go home, certainly in post-production, at 6 p.m. I mean, it's quite amazed me. So yes, people tend to get up and go.
But yes, it's more like sort of the executive producers, the director, maybe a mixing engineer, and
sound supervisor.
Very occasionally we get the actors and the talent within the film who come and redo their lines in the film or whatever. It's not a very whatever.
And so my final question is, why did you feel that you needed a alcohol license and a late night refreshment license? Because obviously late night refreshment you can do anyway until 11. You don't need a license after that for that. So why do you want to go for? Are you selling this alcohol in there? Is that what's going on?
Yeah, it would be. It was to sell it to clients. It was, it's like providing them with, if we go to get sandwiches and for them at lunch.
So it's kind of, it's adding a little
it's an add-on.
Yeah, adding a bit of hospitality to the service kind of thing, but making it all above board rather than just giving it to them, sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And most post-production houses do that when they can, when they got the room for it.
Yeah.
And
Okay. Well, I think that's all I want to raise. Members, Deborah, anyone else? Other points of clarification? Deborah, are you feeling better about this or not?
I think if it's 10 p.m. I feel better. I suppose I would just like to know that it's not going to be every night, and I don't know whether you can have a way that you can give people a license without it being an every night. I don't know.
I mean, in terms of our core hours, Deborah, and the fact that it has been designated as a commercial space by the planning, the authority's planning department, they've come down quite a lot of in terms of what the core hours that the local authority recommend to 10 o'clock. So that gives members quite a bit of reassurance around, the effect on residents. And also, I think the soundproofing you will get in an establishment like this, from the point of view of sound spillage outside, will be really like excellent. It's just the outside bit that we're kind of a bit worried about. People leaving, they're going to be leaving earlier now, and Sarah has said, and her colleague there, that they will make sure that people don't stand around in the immediate vicinity outside there and try and get them to go down the canal. We can't really condition that, Sarah, but you can give us, you can just, I can see you're a responsible person, so you will ask your clients to do that if they really need to smoke. So that's kind of good. Deborah, do you want to come in?
Yeah, I suppose just my final thing is, I always have this worry, which you've already raised, that once you've given the license, it can be passed on.
Yeah.
And that's why I am still concerned about a license for alcohol in a residential area.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's just ask one more question then to Sarah and the team there. How long do you expect to be there for? I know it's a difficult question. The economy's.
Yeah. Well, we signed a 20-year lease. We've done a major fit out of what was the empty
So
room.
you put a lot of money in there, a lot of investment. You're not planning to go anywhere soon. Yeah.
We see it running.
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay. Great. Well, I think if members want to come back with any further questions there, and we can maybe move to closing remarks. Mr. Chewett, would you like to come in and give us your reflections on where we are now?
Chair, thank you. I think the reduced hours do go some way to allay concerns. I am still, I guess, the street that the premises is located on, my guess is it's very low levels of ambient noise late at night. So I do think any new activity there could be noticeable to residential premises, and given the close proximity, which is what I raised in my initial representation. But as I say, the hours have been reduced, so that goes some way to allay concerns somewhat. But I'm still a bit concerned about that. Live music, I could see it's been withdrawn from the application. Of course, live music is exempt. Live music is not a licensed activity between 8 AM and 11 PM anyway, so it could still be carried on in any workplace. I think there was agreement with the police about any sale of alcohol at the premises will remain ancillary to its main function as a post-production facility. I think maybe if you are minded to grant, you could look at the wording of that condition and use that somehow to protect against the nature of the business changing if in future it's passed on or changes ownership. I can't think of wording how to condition that right now, but like I say, if you are minded to grant, could perhaps look at how that condition is worded. I think that's it really from me. So concerns are laid somewhat by the reduced hours, but that close proximity to residential premises, it's new type of activity. I do still have some concerns about.
Okay, thank you, David. Thank you for the suggestion of that condition. Amanda, did you hear that? Maybe we could work that up if we decide to grant this. Okay, Deborah, do you want to come back with your closing remarks?
I don't think my closing remarks are sort of going to be very different from what I've said already. It's just there's a hell of a lot of people living here, and it's their lives day in, day out. And I think it's important to be considerate of that. If living in a city is stressful enough, you don't need any extra. And I've lived here for 40 years. I'm not going anywhere. We're in here for the long haul.
Yeah, we get that, and members get that too. So the applicant, Sarah, whether it be Ryan or both, if you want to come back with your closing remarks, please.
Yeah, I think what shows throughout this hearing is that Sarah and her colleague are definitely proactive throughout the whole situation, and they'll be more than happy to work with anyone in the local area really to sort of get any concerns they have, and say even if it's like letting maybe know about the events when they might be on, could be like something to do there maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Sarah's just showing happy to cooperate throughout.
Great. I mean, that does take a concerted effort. So, you know, sometimes you just need to go out and knock on a few doors. Sometimes just to introduce yourself, you know, just to say who you are, and maybe provide a phone number for people that they can call if there's a problem, you know, stuff like that. But it goes a long way to helping to reassure people, you know, just within, like, I don't know, you know, a 50-yard sort of area of where you are there, kind of thing. Sarah, do you want to come in with anything?
No, I think that's it. I mean, I totally understand the objections. I mean, if that had turned up on my door, I'd have been exactly the same. But I know the reassurances. You know, reassurances are one thing and actualities are another. Certainly anyone can take our number, local residents. There's Cafe Cecilia and Stronghold, and they both have licenses. And I don't know if you're having any trouble from them, but we would have less traffic than they have per night. Well, not per night. We won't be doing it per night. I mean, we could definitely, if we were given email addresses or a WhatsApp group or something, we could let you know when and what type of events are going on. I mean, they will be very small. They'll just be, I don't know, there could be an industry speaker, someone talking about sound or whatever, to possibly students. We don't ever envisage a lot of drinking. It really is very, very secondary to our business. It's an add-on, and I think that's it. But I mean, we're very happy to take recommendations and to adhere to them.
Yeah, Deborah.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Cafe Cecilia, interestingly, and we have had some unbelievably drunk people even coming and ringing our doorbells in the night. People do that when they're drunk, and it's very, very disruptive, and the sound echoes around across the canal, and it's much noisier than you think it is, people talking and when they're drunk. Yeah, it's not fun.
Okay, thank you everyone for that. I think we've had a very thorough discussion. We know where everyone sort of sits on this. You know, Sarah, you know, I can tell that you guys are responsible operators, and you know, I do have faith in what you're trying to do there. So, any points of final clarification from members before we move on to the next item? So I think members are happy. Thank you everyone who was involved in this particular agenda item for attending and for giving us your opinions and answering our questions. Much appreciated. You will hear tomorrow by phone, 5 working days, skeleton decision. So thank you very much. So all of those that were involved in this particular hearing, you can now leave.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
So have a nice afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, great. So we'll move on to agenda item 7, unless people need a comfort break at this point. Just looking out there, everyone happy to go on? Councillor Sizer.
Can I have literally 1 minute? But yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be okay.
Okay. Well, look, people, we'll take a comfort break for 2 minutes. Sorry, I know you've been waiting, folks, but just a comfort break for 2 minutes, and we'll see you then. Thank you. Okay, nice to see you folks. That's 2 minutes. You've had. Just wait for Councillor Sizer to come back. I can see Peter Snell on there. Hello, Peter.
Hi there, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Nice to see you.
And you?
Okay, so I think we'll just go around the virtual room for this agenda item 7. This is Cafe Coffee, 1 and 2 Gillett Square, Hackney, London N16. So as I say, I'm Councillor Smith, Chair of Licensing and Councillor in Stoke Newington Ward. Councillor Susan Runge.
Thank you. I'm a member of the Licensing Committee and a councillor for Hackney Central. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sizer.
Councillor Sizer, Hoxton East and Shoreditch.
Thank you very much. Amanda.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Amanda North. I'm from Legal Services, supporting members this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Suba.
Hi there, I'm Subha Sriramana. I'm the Principal Licensing Officer. Thank you.
Fantastic. And then we have Mr. Hicks.
Good afternoon, Chair. It's Guy Hicks. I'm representing Cafe Coffee.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Hicks, for that. And then as I say, some people I can't see on the screen. So for those of you I can't see, just come in after the introductions. That I'm going to invite people now to come in. So I've got Claire.
Hi, my name is Claire. I am an architect and a frequent visitor and contributor to Gillett Square.
Okay, thank you. And then is it Chog?
Hi there, my name's Chog Burley. I'm also an architect. I've worked in Gillett Square for over a decade previously and regular visitor to Cafe Coffee.
Okay, thank you. And then Duncan.
Yeah, I'm Duncan and I'm one of the residents in the area.
Okay, thank you, Duncan. And Peter? Peter Snell?
Yeah, well, yes, you said a councillor. Of course, I am no longer a councillor, but I was a councillor all through the period when the redevelopment works were happening in Gillett Square. And I just want to come along and give a bit of extra background in support of this application. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Peter. And then I have Amanda, you put your hand up.
Yes, Chair. I just wanted to remind you that we've given permission for 2 councillors to speak in support of this, but only obviously one is now in attendance. He's not a councillor anymore, but Peter Snell is speaking in support of this application, but we won't be allowing any other persons to speak in support of the application because we won't have sufficient time to do that this afternoon. So if you could just be aware that we have to limit the time.
Yeah, Mr. Hicks.
Chair, that's fair enough. Are we going to put similar limits on any resident objectors? Will they be narrowing down to 1 person speaking or 2 people speaking?
Well, we can kind of discuss that when we finish the introductions to see if people want to go down that road. So I've got, is it Amaha?
Yes. Good afternoon.
Yeah, Amaha, do you want to just introduce yourself and what you're about?
Okay, I'm just here to support Jared Marcus. I frequently use Gillett Square and I've been a regular visitor of Cafe Coffee.
Okay, thank you for that. And then Yared?
My name is Jared Marcos. I'm operator Cafe Coffee and owner of Cafe Coffee.
Okay, thank you, Jared, for that. We got Mario on the call. He's our IT person. I've got 10 others. I'm just going to click on the button. Amy.
Hi, I'm Amy, and I'm a university lecturer and also a visitor of Cafe Coffee and contributor to Gillett Square.
Okay. So, but we don't have a lot of these people listed as, you know, they're not really part of the application. So how
No,
come
Chair.
they're all on the call?
No, the thing, no, Chad, like, so we have received 4 representations in regards to these applications. So we have C2 and C4 on the call. All these people are part of the petition which was submitted by Mr. Hicks, which was circulated. So as we informed Mr. Hicks, so from the petition which he submitted, only Mr. Snell is allowed to speak.
In support.
In
Because I have
support,
other people. I've got Nenkencho Okonta, I've got Mariam, I've got Lucy, I've got Josephine, I've got quite a number of other
Yeah.
people here.
Yes,
Who
Chad.
are all these other people?
Chair, I can actually say that Josephine and Nkencho are legal officers, and they're just observing this afternoon.
Ah.
Apologies, that wasn't. We weren't aware that they were on the call, so apologies for not letting you know.
Tim Flannery.
I think he is
He's-
objecting. He's an objector.
Okay,
He's C2.
He's
C2.
C2.
I got you. Yeah, Mr. I'm going to call you C2 then. If you can hear me, is that okay? TF, would you like to introduce yourself? I can call you C2. Doesn't seem to be responding. And
He's on
Duncan
mute
Lane.
at the moment.
Sorry.
I think he's on mute.
Okay.
How's that?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah.
Are you okay to be referred to as your full name, or do you want to be referred to as C2?
Tim's fine.
Okay, Tim. Just introduce yourself, please.
Can
Thanks.
you hear me?
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes. Yeah. I'm Duncan Lane. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we might have. You're a resident, yeah?
Yes, I'm also a resident. I'll switch my camera off. You can
yeah,
grab me if you need me.
Okay, look, Mr. Hicks,
Yeah,
you've
the
got your
line's
hand up.
cracking, but I can't hear much. It's a very bad line.
Yep. Okay, Mr. Hicks.
Sorry. That's my hand up. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, Chair, it was just to say, my apologies. The reason all these people are here is because I invited them. I'd misread an email earlier when I submitted those emails in support, and I wanted the people here to demonstrate their amount of support for the application in the first instance. So my apologies for sending out the invite. But secondly, I wasn't actually informed I was only allowed to have Mr. Snell speak on my behalf.
Okay, apologies for that. Team, we need to note that, and maybe better communication next time, please. Okay, look, this is relatively complicated because I can't see a lot of people on my screen, so just please bear with me on this one. So let's start. Would you like me to go through the protocol again, the hearing procedure? Everyone, just nod if you think that's. Are you okay? Did you hear the first one? Everyone's content just to move on. Okay, good. Right. So, can I invite the principal licensing officer, please, Suba, to kind of outline this report for Cafe Coffee, 1 and 2 Gillett Square, N16. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So the second item we are going to consider is again for a premises license under the Licensing Act 2003 for the Cafe Coffee, 1 and 2 Gillett Square, for recorded music, late night refreshment, and to authorize supply of alcohol for consumption on and off the premises, as the hours stated within the report. The police, environmental enforcement, and environmental protection have withdrawn their representation based on agreed conditions. We have received additional information from the applicant, and this document has been circulated. Representation still remains from other persons, and I have nothing else to add. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, great. Members, any points of clarification at this point? Okay, so we can...
No points of clarification, Chair.
Okay, great. So be straight over to you, Mr. Hicks, to represent your case for the applicant. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. So Cafe Coffee is an Ethiopian vegetarian cafe, restaurant and bar. There's an existing license, but the new application is made in order to increase those hours on a Friday and Saturday. And the increase in licensable activity equates to an extra 3 hours per week. The application also now allows for a 30-minute drinking up time, which is not currently in existence on the current license. The premises will continue to serve vegetarian food, and substantial meals will always be available. And although there will be a limited range of spirits on offer, the main alcohol sold will be Ethiopian beers, wine and honey wine. The main driver for the business is the culture, bringing Ethiopian culture in the form of its food and drink and its coffee and music to Gillett Square and to the Ethiopian community. Yared Marcos, and I'm going to refer to him as Marcos. I'm not being rude by calling him by his surname. He's happy to be called Marcos. I think everyone knows him as Marcos. Is a man of good character. He has very much embedded himself at the heart of the community in Dalston, and he lives and he works in the area. And during the day, he's grinding coffee from his family's farm in Ethiopia, as well as running both aspects of Kaffa Coffee. Currently, there's a premises in Bradbury Street, and that's the new application we're going to be talking about. But there's also a temporary container on Gillett Square that he runs with his wife, and that's just in place while building works are carried out to the main premises. Marcos is one of the directors for the Hackney Cooperative Developments, the HCD, and throughout the year gives his time to organise family events on the square. In this role, which is voluntary, he has been a lead in partnership working with many council departments and the police, and has been a source of information, guidance and advice for all involved. And not just the authorities, but the locals, from street drinkers to local user groups. His presence and that of his business premises are hugely important to Gillett Square. And if I may, I'd, at this stage, if it's possible, ask Mr. Peter Snell just to say a few words and expand on what I've said before I continue, if that's okay, Chair, or we could move that to the discussion phase. I'm happy either way.
Well, he gets his own spot really in terms of the other persons. So if you're happy to leave it to that.
Fine, I'll carry on. So in terms of representations received, we have agreed conditions with the police, the environment and health in terms of noise team and waste team. And in short, these relate to SIA and training, noise mitigation and correct waste management. And this makes the proposed licence robust and clearly allayed the concerns of the responsible authorities. You will also note the concerns made by the council enforcement team, Amalia Rodriguez, has also been withdrawn on the basis of the conditions that have been agreed with the police. You'll have seen a number of supporting statements from residents, 25 in total, and that includes local Labour councillor for the Dalston, Grace Adebayo. Many are residents living very near to Kaffa Coffee. All speak of Marcos and his business as a strong figure in the community. All support the extension of hours, and none highlight concerns in terms of crime and disorder, noise nuisance and violence, etc. I'm confident the licence, if granted, will not adversely impact the area, and robust conditions and strong management will reduce and mitigate issues such as noise and poor behaviour. The applicant is well respected and supported, especially in his work with the Ethiopian community as a hub for them to socialise, and for them what can only be described as a small taste of home. I'll leave it there, Chair. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. That was 3 minutes and 20 seconds. That was very swift indeed.
Quickly.
Okay, members, do you want to come back with any points of clarification there before we move on to the other persons?
No points of clarification. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Sizer?
No, none from me. Thank you.
Mr. Hicks, the police have withdrawn, and before they had, quite major concerns really. Can you just talk about the conversations you've had with them in regards to the kind of, the drug taking around the area, and the fact that the shutters were down, and the fact that the venue had been operating outside of its licensable hours and all this kind of thing? Can you just spend a minute or two on that?
I can, Chair, but obviously their representation technically doesn't exist now.
No, exactly. No, that's the thing.
So,
that's why I wanted to hear from you as to how those discussions took place.
In terms of drug use, I don't remember the police mentioning drug use. What they did mention was the allegation that shutters were down and that council licensing were investigating something there. That investigation never took place. But what that relates to is Mr. Marcos, his staff, and some of the musicians remaining on premises after hours and having a drink, which wasn't a licensable activity. The drink was given away free. Technically, what you'd call in the old days a lock-in, but certainly no sale of alcohol or any licensing offences were committed. Otherwise, the police would obviously have prosecuted him for that. Once we had a conversation around that, they raised their concerns that obviously it doesn't look great. And I raised those concerns with Marcos, who now understands that it's not the done thing having lock-ins, because it can cause him further issues, and they won't happen again, Chair.
Okay, brilliant. Well, that's good to clarify that point. Okay. Okay, so it's over to you, Peter. You've got 5 minutes in support, and then we'll invite other persons to come in that are listed here on my sheet of paper. So, Peter.
Thank you very much, Chair, and good to see you, councillors. I'm here because I've been involved. I mean, if you're the councillor for Dalston, what goes on in Gillett Square is a focus for your concerns and your activity. And from different residents of Dalston, it is the worst place in Hackney to the most ideal place in Hackney where everybody comes and mixes. What unfortunately doesn't seem to happen is we get a sensible consensus about how to manage the place. And I'm here today to explain how I have tried to develop that when I was a councillor, and how giving this license to Marcos is to me an essential part of developing that process. So if you look at the background statement that I made, I talked about the whole history of Gillett Square. The sad reality is it's a whole load of co-op offices and workspaces that would have been unlettable if they hadn't done them up. And I, as the councillor, went along with people from Bootstrap and HCD to get money to develop those premises. They're now fully compliant. They looked a bit of a mess when they were first built, but now they're opening up. We're starting to understand the concept and how it's going to work. Marcos is an absolutely key person for making that work. So when it first went through, the planning department said, you've got to build a toilet in the square. It's completely undeliverable as a planning condition. And in fact, I supported Marcos and HCD, I should say, not Marcos, in saying, that's all right, I will control the access to the toilet. The premises he's been allocated by Hackney Cooperative Development, of which he is a very active trustee, is deliberately in the place that lets him control access to those toilets. I promise you, there are people in the square, his customers, saying he's an idiot to sign up to something like that, because clearly we know that toilets become a focus for drug dealing and everything else. He's confident he can manage it. I'm a regular user of both the Outside Cafe and the Bradbury Street Cafe. I have never seen anyone even light up a split in there. I simply do not believe that it happens. What concerns me about, I mean, it's not just the residents, it's also a whole load of the businesses. You get them in a room together, Dalston Pub Watch, and they slag each other off, make allegations that are unsupported, and it undermines everyone's confidence that we can actually manage the square and make it better. Yared was in there right at the beginning, arguing the case for children's provision, the stuff that the stuff that's in there now. He got all the kids' equipment out this last weekend when we had the celebration of his 30-40 years of successfully running his business. It's when Yared is doing something that the square feels safe, and it has, I think, got materially safe. So he's the person who can help make that happen. Now, I understand objections, but in these cases, the objections aren't really supported by any evidence. They're all, I mean, objections need to be directed at the application itself. And these objections are general things that Gillett Square is a problem place, and therefore we should have no more premises there. The idea you would close the toilet access early by not giving a license to the person who's actually going to keep that into the evening and reduce the public health nuisance of street urination is just nonsense. I'm sorry. You have to trust people like myself who work with the locality, who actually go inside these cafes and talk to the owners and talk to the other users, and it's great to see so many here today. You have to trust us when we say, sorry, this has got to be a benefit for Gillett Square, and that's absolutely why I'm supporting it today, and hope you will decide to approve it. Is that okay? Have I missed anything?
Well, perfect. Thank you very much, Mr. Snell, for that. You've made it very clear how you feel, and we've read your submissions as well. Any points of clarification there, members, before we move into the next users? No? Okay. So I have Dr. Alison Josephine Barnard listed here. Is Alison there? No? Tim Flannery.
Yes, hello.
Yeah, can I just very quickly interrupt? Can we just identify the other persons by their C1, C2, C3, just so that I know extra people aren't speaking over and above who should be here? Because I know it's quite confusing with this amount of people.
Yes, we can try. Well, C2 is Tim. And then I've got, Subi, you might need to help me here. BR.
And we got C4 chair, South Mile Maintenance.
C4, 1 second.
Yeah,
Hold on.
yeah, we're here.
Yeah, so we got C2 and C4.
And that's it, yeah?
Yes, Chair.
That's all,
It's only two
that's
of
all we've
them,
got. Okay.
yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so we'll go to C2 then. Tim.
Hi. Yeah. Basically, yeah, I think Cafe Coffee is great. I think it's really, really improved the whole square, but I don't think a late license there is appropriate. What has been hinted at previously by Guy and Peter is the drug gangs that operate there and the open use of cannabis, particularly around Cafe Coffee on their outside spaces, appears to be completely tolerated. To say that that's endemic within the square, yes, perhaps it is, but I don't see I see Cafe Coffee only benefiting from that. The idea that Cafe Coffee could operate until 2 in the morning actually fills me with dread. They regularly throw events which are wonderful, wonderful in the daytime until about 7 or 8 when everyone's out their heads and they start peeing in everyone's front gardens. Example of this would be this weekend just gone. We got a flyer through our door which Marcus sent us, which said that they would finish at 9 p.m. The music was still going at 11:15, definitely, possibly later. There are a number of ongoing issues surrounding these events and surrounding loud music played publicly outdoors at these events. There are a number of noise complaints in the process. I'm currently talking to a Hackney councillor as well about this, and I know a number of my fellow residents are also doing so. I live in a building that's shared with vulnerable people, elderly people, babies, and it's a nuisance. It's the loud music that happens most weekends, which is increasing in frequency, is blighting our lives. And I think to allow a licensee to operate until 2 a.m. for 3 nights a week would greatly impact on our health and well-being. Routinely, whether or not it's specifically guests to Marcos's venue, I'm not sure, but we do routinely have people leaving bars on Bradbury Street and in Gillette Square drunk, very drunk, making lots of noise. Broken glass is a real issue. Litter is a real issue. I'm sure that Marcus is doing his best to curb these things, but I feel that a late license till 2 a.m. is just going to extend the noise into the night.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Tim. Mr. Hicks, just bring you in very briefly here.
Sorry, I had my hand up previously. Do you want me to answer that, or should we deal with the next?
Let's get through the other representations, then we can come to have a discussion. So I've got C4.
Hi, I'm speaking for the tenants from South Miles May Tenants Co-op, which
Yep, brilliant, thank you.
based just around the corner. I'm also a tenant who lives literally opposite Gillette Square, and I have to second what C2 has said. Our lives have been blighted with this. We have photographic evidence. Literally on Saturday after that event, I watched from my front room as a queue built up by the park where people went to the toilet. Many occasions we've been dropped leaflets where they've said this is a number to contact. Nobody answers. Now, I personally had to get involved with the chief superintendent to move the antisocial behaviour that had come from Gillette Square to outside our properties. They were moved, but guess what? I see them on a daily basis back in Gillette Square. The job I do means I work with a lot of drug addicts, and where is their home? It's in Gillette Square. And I don't see why a coffee shop need to extend its opening hours till 2 o'clock. And I don't want to get off the point, but I've read all the documents that were issued to me on Friday, and a lot of it is from people who don't even live in the area. So if you did visit that coffee shop or any other venue in Gillett Square, that might be nice for you, but you have gone home and those people are going to the toilets in our front gardens, on our step, opposite us. We have evidence, you know, which I also pulled together and did present to the chief superintendent. And the problem that we do have is that we're on a borderline. There's literally 2 steps before us. If I take 2 steps forward, I'm in Hackney. I take 2 steps back, I'm in Islington. So no one is actually dealing with that problem because we're experiencing it in Islington. And having grown up in this area since, well, practically all of my life, I am well aware of Gillett Square, well aware that it is not the place it's actually being made out to be. I personally wouldn't walk through there myself, even though I live around there and I'm familiar with a lot of the people. It's not safe as it's made out to be. People, street drinkers, drug takers, it's literally done openly. So I'm very confused to what other people appear to be seeing. And that's all I can say, I'm afraid.
Well, thank you very much for that, C4. Members, before I bring you in, can we just hear from Mr. Hicks, because he had his hand up previously. Thank you, Mr. Hicks.
No, Chair, I'd accidentally not taken my hand down, so I'm happy for you to clarify your points and then come back to me when I answer all this.
Okay, thank you. Okay, members, so I'd like to invite you to come with your questions and queries, please. Councillor Sizer.
Yes, I can hear both perspectives loud and clear, and I think that relates back to what Peter Snell was saying about this is an area that evokes strong opinions about what it represents and what it is on both sides. So I can hear that both sides are represented. I can hear that, Marcos, you are part of the solution in some ways, that you have done something that is about community and bringing people in. My main concern is we're in a pressure point area anyway. You know, Dalston is an SPA. It's an area of a lot of concern anyway. I'm not convinced at the moment about extending to 2 AM without there being any negative impact. That's my concern. It's not about you as a character, which is loud and clear positive. It's about anything being opened and available and adding fuel to an already precarious situation. So it's more of a comment than a question, sorry, but that's where I'm at the moment, and I'm not fully hearing enough to make me feel less nervous about it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Sizer. Councillor Sudurunga.
Thank you, Chair. Just to echo what Councillor Sizer has said, and just to ask for more detail, how can the cumulative impact be managed, and why do you actually need such long hours? So if you could give more detail in respect of those 2 points, that would be really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hicks, would you like to come in?
Yeah, happy to, Chair. Obviously, there's a number of issues that to discuss there, and if I forget anything, please draw me back. Drug dealing tolerated by Kafa Coffee. Let's talk about that. So previously on Amalia's paperwork, in terms of the enforcement officers, there was this allegation that Marcos tolerates and allows it to happen because he's intimidated. What did actually happen is the fact that he was told by the enforcement officers not to engage with those drug dealers and to call them. So it's not him tolerating it. It's not him allowing it to happen. He's been told by council enforcement officers not to get involved. So I want to be very clear on that. Minor point on the second one. We're not asking for 2 AM 3 nights a week. It's only 2. Talk about lives being blighted. And I do sympathise with residents of Dalston, particularly around Gillett Square, because it is a bit of a hotspot. We acknowledge that. But all we've heard is Gillett Square outside events, Gillett Square outside events. Local residents, don't want to visit. How do they know it's got any better if you don't want to visit there, if you don't go there? That would be my question to I think it was C4. In terms of queues to the park toilet, etc., we've heard all this absolute explosion of mud being flung everywhere towards Kaffir Coffee about drug dealers, about urination, lives being blighted, noise, etc., etc. But we haven't actually seen any causal evidence whatsoever that Kaffir Coffee are the cause of that. They're a small vegetarian Ethiopian cafe stroke bar restaurant. They hold at the moment about 15 people. It's not a big venue. We've heard things about queues and stuff. In some of the evidence that was put forward in the with the residents there, we talked about the crowds at Kaffir. It's 15 people. Now, I would take a guess that a lot of that is directed towards the events in Gillett Square. Well, Gillett Square has its own premises license. So my suggestion there would be deal with the premises license at Gillett Square. Don't take all of that bad behaviour and make that reflect on Kaffir Coffee, because that's not the case. It's not right. In terms of the event on Saturday going on until 11 o'clock, that is simply not true. The event finished at 9 p.m. Now, I know I'm not allowed to ask people to speak on behalf of Kaffir Coffee that are in the room at the moment, but in the virtual room at the moment. But there are people in the virtual room at the moment who were there themselves who said it ended at 9 p.m. I can only assume that the street drinkers have got themselves some music going, and that's what's continued. But it certainly wasn't the event that was a Gillett Square event, not a Kaffir Coffee event, that went on Saturday night. So, you know, my message there would be, don't take all this bad behaviour and throw it onto Marcos, and have it affect his application, because that simply wouldn't be fair. And Councillor Sizer, you know, I appreciate you've listened to that. I'd ask you to keep an open mind and certainly not make your mind up at this stage of the hearing, because if you look at the amount of conditions on the actual application and those that have been agreed with police and the noise service, they're very robust. They're almost nightclub conditions, some of them. Chair, did I miss anything there, or anyone's questions?
Don't think, Councillor Susan, I think there was he did miss a bit, didn't he?
Yes, thank you, Chair. It was really just a little bit more detail about why do we need to have the hours quite so long, and how can we manage the cumulative impact? And obviously, we are not saying that all the negative behaviour is in regard to Kaffir Coffee. We're not saying that at all. And, you know, we welcome such a community venue, but we're looking at the cumulative impact in respect of the whole square, and just asking how, at this juncture, how Kaffir Coffee could manage any cumulative impact, and more detail on why they need the hours quite so long. Thank you.
Yeah, my apologies. I got carried away. So the mud flinging is not necessarily from you, councillor. It certainly is from the residents, just to make that clear. In terms of the length of hours, these are generally driven by customer demand. But in this instance, we're not going to shy away from the fact that he's taken on extra space. He's got extra rent. He's got, you know, his own living to make, and having what is technically a very small amount of extra time, 3 hours a week, 1.5 hours, you know, on a Friday, 1.5 hours on a Saturday, will make a world of difference in helping him to support himself and pay his bills. In terms of managing the impact, we've obviously agreed with the police that we will have SIA on those 2 nights in question, Friday and Saturday. And they'll be very well briefed in terms of managing the toilet. They'll be assisted in managing that toilet with Marcos and any of the other staff. They will also be tasked with dealing with you know, anybody sitting out on the tables and chairs that are there in the early evening. When people leave, they'll be asked to leave quietly. There'll be signposts up within the venue asking people to leave quietly. And if you look at the noise conditions that have been agreed with the noise service, part of that is to ensure that the only door used after a certain time is the one out onto Gillett Square rather than onto Bradbury Street. So Gillett Square obviously being a much wider expanse of a space to disperse what will eventually be probably 25 to 30 people. So it's not a huge amount, rather than out onto the area behind in Bradbury Street, which is, you know, more residential than Gillett Square is. Does that answer your questions?
Yes, thank you, Guy. That's really helpful. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Well, can I just say something, Guy? That
one second, South. Sorry, C4. 1 second. I'll bring you in a second. I can see you're waiting. I just want to bring in Councillor Sizer here. Sorry about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, and I'll be brief. But it was literally just to say, I echo what Councillor Suso Runja has also said, that this isn't about us denigrating the work that Marcos has done. We are very aware that he is adding something positive into the community, and we don't want that to be assumed at all. We're not mudslinging at all. We're thanking him, but there still needs to be a really positive impact in terms of the cumulative impact that's already problematic. That's what we're saying. We're saying that there has to be evidence that what will happen if the hours are extended is actually going to add to the area, not subtract further to an already pressurized area. That's the concern. So it's not binary, but we're looking for evidence to support why the hours should be extended.
Okay, Tim.
Yeah, firstly, I'd like to refer Guy to the flyer that came through my door, which said 9 p.m. I was here till 11. I did hear music coming from here till 11. And Councillor Susan Fajardo Thomas sent me an email saying that the event was licensed under HCD until 10:30. So if we can get that sort of thing right, it'd be really great. Sorry, what was the original question?
You just brought you in, Tim, because you had your hand up.
Yeah, that was my main thing there. And I do acknowledge the positive effect of Marcos and his work, but I just don't think that a 2 a.m. license is appropriate. I think it's going to add, as councillors have said, to what's already a tricky situation. I've eaten in Marco's place, love it. I drink his coffee too, but so don't think that I'm blaming a lot of the problems on Gillette Square, which there are many, exclusively on Marcos, because I'm not.
Okay, thank you for that. And C4.
Yeah, I second what Tim said, but can I just ask Guy, you said they would be coming out of Gillette Square, which is a bigger area. That is in front of, you come out into Gillette Square, is in front of our bedrooms. So that's South Mildmay tenants. That is where we actually live. So when they are making their getaway or they're leaving or whatever, it is very noisy. And it won't be just 15 people, because there will be other, obviously it's not Marcos's fault, there's going to be other people doing venues in Gillette Square. So if everybody's going to be leaving that end, because there's really no other way for them to sort of go, so it ends up there or onto Stoke Newington. So, and just to clarify in that point about how would I know, because I don't go there. Sometimes if I'm with my brother and I'm daring, I will walk through Gillette Square. But I don't actually need to go there. I can look out my bedroom window and see exactly what's going on. So it's not like I'm saying he's the cause of it. I'm just saying there is a lot of problems in Gillette Square, and I don't think that we need any late night openings, regardless of whether it's 3 hours or even 1.
Okay, Mr. Hicks, you might want to come back on some of those points, do you? Or
Yeah, I mean, we've still got this sticking point. I don't want to leave the point about the party on Saturday, you know, without bringing other people into the meeting. They're insistent that it finished at 9 p.m. I don't even know if we can agree to disagree on that, but it certainly ended at 9 p.m. The music was not from Marcos. And I've also clarified that this morning, because the police, I've spoken to the police, and unfortunately the noise officer is not here. I was hoping she was going to be here. In terms of the police didn't withdraw until this morning, based on the fact that they wanted to see what happened on Saturday night and confirm there were no problems. So, you know, I think that goes some way towards clarifying that situation. In regards to our customers leaving into Gillette Square, well, they're not going to leave at the same time as the other venues, because the other venues have got much later licenses. I'm not entirely sure. I can't remember what Dalston, Jazz Vortex Bar, is it? I can't remember what their license is, but I know that the other side, Dalston Jazz, has got a license till 5 a.m. in the morning. So, you know, we're looking at alcohol finishing at 1:30. People will slowly start to disperse. 15, 20, 30 people at the absolute max dispersing over that period of time, you know, I really can't see that making a negative impact on the area.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. I have Ashley that's raised your hand. Ashley, I don't know if you've introduced yourself before, have you?
No, apologies. I'm actually a late joiner to the meeting. I hope you can hear me well enough.
Yeah, Ashley, would you just like to introduce yourself, please, first before you say anything?
Yes, my name is Ashley Brown. I'm actually a person who just frequents the square quite often. We used to be part of the Majorette team that had a shop in the square historically. And I've been frequenting the square for a very long time, as well as Vortex and the Jazz Bar, which does have a late license. And I just wanted some clarity on some points regarding this entire debate about the license. Is this a license for playing music outdoors? Is question number one. And the second question I have is, well, actually it was answered by by Guy about the license held by other places. So as I just saw Guy shake his head, this wasn't a question about music being played outdoors, was it? Exactly. And I think in the case of this entire scenario, that of this situation that's just happened, this all has to do with music being played very, very loudly coming from an external source. It wasn't music being played inside of CAFA, was it? Exactly. So I'm kind of confused as to the point of this entire debate. If there is loud music being played in the square, how does that entirely become associated with one shop, vendor, restaurant?
Yeah,
etc.?
Ashley, I think you're taking us down a track that we're not really on that track, I'm afraid. The outdoor music thing, I think what Mr. Hicks has said, it's not relevant really to this particular hearing. That's why you're getting a bit confused. Okay, Councillor Sizer.
Yeah, just want to echo that. It's not really about Saturday night as an issue, although that comes into the whole debate. It's about, can you show that extending these hours is not going to negatively impact on the area, and an area that's already experiencing a lot of issues. That's what this is about. So I think in some ways Saturday, you know, it's relevant, but that's not what we're here to debate. We're here to debate the extension of the hours and whether that's going to be a positive or a negative.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously, let's put the whole Saturday thing to bed. It's just that obviously other persons have been raising that as an issue, and I feel that it's unfair to raise that an issue when it's not, you know, specifically true. But anyway, can I just offer maybe something else in terms of an offer towards assisting, you know, this license be granted, and maybe we could look at something like a dispersal policy, which hasn't been put on the license. That is something I could write and potentially agree with either the licensing service or the police. I know they're not here, but I hope that would give some form of I don't know what word I'm looking for. Comfort, reassurance. That's a better word. Right.
That's kind of useful. Ashley, I can see your hand up again. Go on. You're on mute.
Is that me?
No,
Ashley, you're on mute. If you want.
Sorry about that. Just one other question for clarity is that regardless, you know, obviously considering other venues that have long, like late licenses in the square, has this been, and this has, I know in the past, been an issue as far as things go, but if they have such significantly late licenses as in until 5 a.m., is that not also a direct contributor or to some of the issues that you've been mentioning as far as noise and other complaints?
Yeah, of course, and I think Councillor Sizer and Councillor Sousa-Runga have gone through this already. We're not having a go at CAFA Coffee for all the antisocial behaviour that takes place in Gillett Square. That has to be clear. We're not blaming them. Yarra is working very hard to resolve a lot of those issues. Peter Snell has mentioned that, and other people have mentioned that. So you know we are aware of that. Look, folks, the issue here at the end of the day is the extended hours. There's one. The live music on the old license was until 2200 hours, Mr. Hicks, and now he wants to go to 2300 hours.
Yeah.
Could we compromise around the live music and bring it back to 22 as it was before, or are you a bit resistant to do that?
it's deregulated, Chair, so it's not a licensable activity up until.
Oh, 23. Of course, you're right. You're right. Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's
absolutely.
why that's
Yeah.
been amended to that.
Yeah,
that side.
yeah,
And-
yeah. Sorry, my
as
fault.
well-
I forgot that.
Yeah, and remember as well that if you look at the conditions around the noise inside, like I say, very robust noise limiter, sound booth for people exiting on Bradbury Street, etc., etc., etc. There's a load of conditions there that
Yeah. Okay. And then the other question which I have to pose, obviously, is basically, is there any movement around the hours at all? In other words, would you consider, say, 1 o'clock, for example, instead of 1:30 for selling alcohol? I just need to ask the question.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough, Chair. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, Marcus really needs his 2 a.m. license. But if it's such a sticking point, and you know, it really is a sticking point, I think his minimum would be a 1 a.m. for activity, 1:30 close.
Okay, well, that's definitely better. Even though it's only half an hour, it is better. So thank you very much.
Well, it's yeah, okay.
Thank you for that.
Yeah,
it's just good to know, you know, where the ballpark is. Great. I think, members, if you're happy to move off the discussion, because we've had 22 minutes on this, we could do that and just go to closing remarks from people. Are members happy with that? Just nod so I can see you. Yeah?
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so we'll go to closing remarks then. Mr. Snell, you'd like to come in with your closing remarks?
You can tell I'm rusty. I'd forgotten I was coming back with closing remarks. I should have made some points there. I think we've covered things well enough. The key thing for me, in that written submission I made, I took each of the 4 licensing conditions and I addressed why this license addressed all 4 and actually managed them better. But the key thing that's come up in this discussion has been the later hours on a Friday and Saturday. Now, I'm not going to go down the path that half the people in the area do of blaming one person versus another person. I try and be fair to everybody. But it is certainly the case that Yared Marcos operates a tighter ship. It will give access to the toilets later. That's the #1 benefit of him operating later. It's way within what other people are operating. And having agreed to SIAs, and I'd certainly go for a dispersal policy. I mean, I'm surprised it's not in there, to be honest. Go for dispersal policy. But the general fact is, when you get to know the licensees around Dalston, not all of them, because some of them aren't that responsible, when you get to know the responsible licensees around Dalston, they control street activities. They're the ones who pick up the phone and say, stuff's cracking off here, can you get some people down here now? Yared is within that number. So for the sort of extreme activity we're talking about, you know, when I was on licensing, I used to rant on about the number of off licenses selling super strength beers to people who are obviously already drunk, and we still haven't really cracked down on that one. But the people who can keep an eye on what's happening and actually say things are kicking off, get around here. I mean, sound systems, I promise you, I cannot believe the mobile sound systems people bring along these days. And it's cut down a lot because it used to be associated with drug dealers, and the CCTV has reduced that. So I certainly feel there's been a reduction in that nuisance, but you can't blame that on the premises. In my view, licensed premises with responsible licensees improve the safety and the management of the square, and it's on that basis that I would ask you to provide this license to Marcos. And if you are concerned about late hours, then obviously you've got the freedom to cut them back in the way that the guy has suggested. But I mean, we can't put him at too much of a competitive disadvantage. There's worse licensees round there who will happily carry on serving and won't be looking after them as well as Marcos will.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Snell, for that. Your views are much appreciated. Thank you. Okay, so can I bring in then C2, please? That would be Tim.
Yeah, hiya. Just to say, I mean, I agree with everything that Peter said, but I think I'm also very concerned that Gillette Square is a problematic place, and I don't see how a late license is going to improve that, and I think it's just going to encourage more people to be in the square after midnight. That's my closing remark. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Bear in mind, though, that a lot more conditions are on the license. The SIAs, that changes things a bit as well, Tim. Just
what's an SIA?
It's a security and security guard basically on the door on Friday and Saturday night, at least one. And I think that will have quite a serious, well, quite a good influence on the square, frankly. So it's a security industry authority designated security guard, essentially.
Do we not have security guards there now?
Excuse me about the phone.
Would you like
I don't know. Maybe there are some SIAs around the
Yeah,
square.
I've seen on Bradbury Street, obviously by the jazz bar there.
Yeah.
He tends to have one. And there's also another venue on Bradbury Street where I've seen that kind of managed very well. SIs.
Yeah, I mean, I think it does make a difference. I mean, it makes a visible difference, but it also makes it kind of, they can get directly involved with things if things go awry, if that makes sense. And then, so C4, Amanda, I did see your hand up. I'll bring you in a minute. C4, you were just chatting there. Do you want to come in with your closing remarks?
I'm just going to say, I think I've said it all, and I just think there's enough late licenses in one area, as we've said, that is a hot spot already. Unfortunately, much as we don't want to admit it, it is.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. And then Amanda, you wanted to come in.
Yes, Chair. I was only going to clarify that the SIA is usually door security for the evenings and only on at set times, and that's agreed by the premises. So they're usually employed by them, but it's not sort of daytime security. It's more of the evenings and late nights, or possibly after the premises close, that they keep an eye for to ensure their safety and no antisocial behaviour late at night.
Yeah. So I think it's been SIA means Security Industry Accreditation. Is that am I right in saying that, Mr. Hicks? You would know, wouldn't you?
That's correct, yeah.
It's that, and it is Security Industry Authority as well. Just
it's both. Okay, Mr. Hicks, it's your turn.
Thank you, Chair. Jared Marcus is a man of good character, as I've already said. He's run. It's a well-run premises. It will continue to be a well-run premises, and he's a good owner operator. He's got very robust conditions if this license were to be granted. We are obviously offering over and above that a dispersal policy, and in terms of the reduction in hours, he'd love his 2 a.m. license. That really would be his nirvana position. But if it is a sticking point for you and gives you some sort of allay your fears, then that reduction in hours is offered. And I would underline the fact that there aren't any relevant authorities here, responsible authorities here, raising their concerns, and I think that says an awful lot, Chair. And I invite you to grant that license in full. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. I've got one point of clarification just before we go. Final clarification, that is. I don't think we talked about capacity. What's the capacity of the venue?
I think off the top of my head, it was 35.
35.
Looked at Marcus.
Would that be how many tables are in there?
Can I just clarify that with him, though, because I don't want you to take that as a given. It's not big.
I think it's 54 table seating.
Oh, there you go. 54.
Sorry,
seating.
can you say that again?
It's 54 seating, so I submit with the floor plan.
Okay, brilliant. Great. How many tables is that, Jared? Roughly.
I remember the seat, not the tables, but there is. I submit with a floor plan.
Okay, great. It's in the pack. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay, members, any point of final clarification at this stage before we end the meeting?
No points of clarification. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Sizer?
No, not from me. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for your submissions. I think we've had a good, thorough discussion. We know exactly where we stand on this. So yeah, we will go off and deliberate. You will hear by telephone tomorrow if you call the licensing team up tomorrow morning, and a skeleton decision within 5 working days. So yeah, great. There's no more business to attend to. So I just like to invite everyone to leave the call the members will stay on and we will deliberate. So look, nice to see you, Mr. Snell.
Thank you all very much.
Thank
And
you.
to see you all. Thank
Thank
you
you
very
very
much.
much.
And have a lovely afternoon, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
You too.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Cheers, then.
Yes.
Bye-bye.